does he have to do with this?
Let anything, you know what I'm talking about. Let anything. Nah, I don't have to say it right now. Don't worry about it. I don't got to say it up here. Let anything happen. And I'm going to show you and him. Bet.
In shape, 145.
Yeah.
In shape. You know what I mean? So this is different from a Crawford coming up to 168, but we know his walk around weight is probably 170, 180.
The fight that I couldn't believe, that was too insane and honestly just baffling to think would be a real fight in 2025, reminds you that combat sports are the craziest sports on the planet.
And chaos broke out at the press conference for the Gervonta Davis versus Jake Paul showdown, turning what was supposed to be routine hype into a full-blown confrontation. Davis snapped during questions about why he chose to fight Paul instead of higher-ranked opponents. Meanwhile, Paul pounced on personal controversies and mocked Davis's background, escalating tension until moderators intervened. I'm going
box, and truly when people run back this press conference, all the shit talk, all the fun, they're going to be like, wow, this kid really is doing something monumental in the sport, and he's actually an insane boxer, and I'm going to show that this guy who's been doing it his whole life has been doing it wrong his whole life.
What'd you say, Tank?
He said he gonna outbox me. Whoop-de-doo.
The one thing, when you have a fight of this magnitude, especially with Jake, because his appeal has been global, for you, Tank, do you think this is one of those fights where now all of a sudden you can show your boxing skills on a global scale to maybe people who weren't interested in boxing? All of a sudden they say, well, who is this guy?
Yeah, it's actually like, you know, now that I'm looking at it now, it's just like, I don't know, probably.
From the outset, the exchange was far from cordial. Paul standing at 6'1" and loomed over Davis's 5'5" in frame, a visual manifestation of the size disparity between the two that has dominated pre-fight discussion. Paul used the height and reach gap as promotional fodder, openly suggesting he would keep Davis at bay with his superior length and size. Meanwhile, Davis, champion at lightweight and accustomed to shorter opponents, leaned into his famed speed, promising to make the size difference irrelevant once the action got hot. It's no secret that Paul thrives on theatricality and provocation, and the press conference was built to generate viral moments. The clown gag, the pushing, the legal allegation jabs. Each piece contributed to an atmosphere more akin to a reality show confrontation than a traditional boxing press event. Reports describe the presser as sound and fury, signifying nothing, offering more spectacle than substance and perspective.
Won the fight. But yeah, that was that. This time, Jake Paul is to take on Tank Davis. Tank Davis, he was recently in the news for being arrested for a domestic violence incident involving one of his kids' mother. He was alleged to have slapped her about the place. The charges were later dropped, to be fair to him. But yeah, that was when he was last in the news. What is interesting is just a couple of months ago, Tank Davis was saying openly that he'd lost his passion for boxing and that he wanted time away from the sport. There was speculation that he might even retire as he was experiencing extreme mental fatigue from boxing, depression, and there were mental health concerns over him. However, I guess the opportunity to earn a truck full of money, fighting a completely worthless exhibition fight against Jake Paul, was enough to make him change his mind about boxing. Funny that, isn't it? But you know what? I'm not even going to waste your time or mine critiquing this utter nonsense. Suffice to say that this so-called fight we're talking about is an exhibition, and it pits Jake Paul, who is a cruiserweight, by the way, weighs in excess of 200 pounds, and Tank Davis, who is, he was the WBA lightweight champion, who weighs in at about 135 pounds when he fights. So that's a disparity of some 65 pounds. In old money, that's about 4.5 stone. There's also a significant difference in height. Jake Paul is roughly, 6'1", 2. Gervonta Davis is 5'5" at best. So, there's a height disparity there of some 8 inches. And once again, this is Jake Paul showing total disrespect to boxing, in my opinion. Once again, continued to pimp out the sport for his own financial ends. And worse still, the powers that be in boxing allowing him to get away with it and facilitating this utter bullshit. And meanwhile, what's even worse about this is that meanwhile, the WBA lightweight title that Tank Davis should be defending against Lamont Roach in a rematch. I mean, they fought back.
Keith Thurman pointed out a sharp irony in how critics of Gervonta Davis actually help him, and he's not wrong. These same people who constantly trash Davis's performances are also the ones who never miss his fights. They claim his boxing isn't up to scratch, yet they tune in each time he steps in the ring. Thurman argues that by devoting their attention, even negative attention, they're giving Davis more visibility and relevance. Their complaints fuel his popularity, effectively making them inadvertent supporters. In short, the more they try to bring him down, the more they elevate his name.
We've seen that Jake will kind of bounce in between doing these entertainment fights and then, trying to push toward his goal of ingraining himself in the sport of boxing, and kind of does both of them. So it's kind of a weird place to be, because he wants the respect of the boxing fans and the boxing hierarchy and hardcore boxing people, but at the same time, he'll gain some of that and then lose some of it. It's like a seesaw of his fights. Like one fight, like, okay, that's a real fight, or that's a real fighter. And he'll go and he'll win the fight. Julio Cesar Chavez, real fighter, maybe past his prime, whatever, but Jake goes and wins that fight pretty easily, and then gets a lot of respect, gets a lot of the boxing hardcore love. And you have these talks about him fighting Anthony Joshua, and that was going to get even more respect. More people were like, that's fucking crazy. What are you doing? Myself included. That seemed like a massive risk, but a lot of people were like, okay, fair play. Anthony Joshua, that's a real heavyweight. Jake wants to fight him. He's a psycho, but fair play. And then you announce this one, and it's like, well, that's the same thing people have been saying about Jake for years, so it's a weird spot to be in for him for sure. But I talked about this not being the first choice, and I don't think it was, because Coppinger reports next that talks for Jake Paul to face Anthony Joshua collapsed over network issues. Now, we had all heard the talks, and they were pretty public, from Eddie Hearn, from Jake. Nakisa Badarian, Jake's manager, was over in the UK on, I think, Sky Sports, talking about the fight and saying how it was a real possibility.
Stephen A. Smith expressed strong disapproval for the trending mismatched exhibition bouts, including Paul versus Mike Tyson, saying Paul was saddened and even disgusted, calling out the mismatch more bluntly. He emphasized the need for Paul to get in the ring with real competition, not former athletes or stars past their prime. Despite his criticisms, Stephen did acknowledge Paul's promotional flair and the attention he brings to the sport. But he made clear that building credibility requires facing legitimate contemporary boxing talent. Smith has also delivered a sharp response following the controversial majority draw between Davis and Lamont Roach in March. He emphasized the weight of Davis's impressive record and dismissed any suggestion that criticism was warranted. In his view, Davis had demonstrated true championship poise by refusing to waver under doubt or dispute. His immediate willingness to accept a rematch was framed as the act of a fighter confident in his standing and eager to reaffirm his dominance at the highest level.
With Tank, first off, don't watch Tank. Don't do it. You know what I'm saying? You support it, then what you doing? You can't not support and support at the same time, right? So if you're a boxing purist, then this fight with Roach is really more for you. It's going to be more up your alley, If you just like all entertainment, all fights, all hypes, all everything, then you're going to want to tune in to the Tank and Paul show there, because that's all for entertainment. What is it? for entertainment purposes only, right? It's just say like somewhere in the small print of the promotion for entertainment. Don't do this at home, kids. You know, so fine.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, disclaimer for entertainment purposes only. You know, so it's money making purposes only. You know,
He even placed Davis among the top 3 boxers worldwide, lauding his power, skill, and knockout artistry. Tank is a world champion and a highly regarded boxing talent, while Jake Paul is mostly a YouTuber and a newcomer to the sport who came from the entertainment world. For an established and proven champion to fight such an inexperienced or lower-level opponent could damage his reputation. According to Smith, this matchup is far below Tank's level, which is why he said Tank should be ashamed of it.
Paul is a professional. At some point in time, I don't give a damn if it's a light heavyweight. Better BF, Bivol, a super middleweight, Canelo, Mexican Monster, David Benavidez, somebody that actually has a reputation. The time has come for Jake Paul to step into the ring with a cat who actually boxes for a living and give us that fight. I appreciate the fact of him promoting. I appreciate him having the cachet as a former YouTuber turned boxer. I like Jake Paul. I respect Jake Paul. I'm just saying, because I like him and because I respect him, I want to see him in the ring. And I don't want to hear, I know his numbers are better, but then he's going to say, I don't need Canelo. Canelo needs me. Well, wait a minute. It ain't just about pop.
Rally Romero sees Paul versus Davis on Netflix as a major draw, especially among younger U.S. viewers. He argues that while Canelo versus Crawford will resonate deeply with Mexican and Latin American fans, the Paul Davis exhibition will pull a bigger crowd stateside, particularly among those under 20. Romero believes both fights grow boxing's overall footprint, and that's a win for the sport. He considers Canelo versus Crawford to be superior from a sporting standpoint, but sees the Paul versus Davis matchup as bigger in U.S. reach. Champion Shocker Stevenson delivered a sharp warning to Davis amid the buzz around Tank boxing Paul. Stevenson called Davis's choice to court an exhibition with Paul disrespectful to the sport, arguing that if Davis truly wanted credibility, he'd face a legitimate contender like himself. Stevenson confident that he's the best fighter in the division.
I want to know who will win in this fight, Jake Paul or Tank Davis? It's a legit question, and I actually want to really hear your thoughts on who do you think is going to win, because I know what Vegas is saying, but I want to know what you think. You got
personally, I think Tank too little, bro.
Yo,
I think Tank's too little.
I'm so glad you have a brain on your fucking shoulder.
I think Tank's too little.
I said, bro.
I think Tank's too little. That's what I'm saying. I have weight classes for a reason.
Davis
that weight classes for a reason.
5'5", 135 pounds. Jake Paul is 6 feet, 205 pounds.
That's what I'm saying.
Dog.
He's too
6'1",
little.
205. Everybody's like, yeah, bro, but Tank it only takes one good punch. Yes, it takes one good punch when you're about the same size. There's a 60, 70-pound difference in weight in these people. I don't think nobody puts the physics in mind. Jake Paul gets punched in the face by dudes 200 pounds with all their might on a weekly basis. A 135-pound puncher, bro. If y'all remember the Mayweather versus Conor McGregor fight, Conor walks around like 180 on the regular. He's like 5'9", 180. Mayweather's like 5'7", 145. That 30-pound, 20, 30-pound difference, bro, if you remember that fight, Mayweather was putting mittens on Conor. Guess what happened to Conor? He didn't hit the ground once.
No.
He lasted all 12 rounds getting hit with flurries. I'm talking about Mayweather was having his time. He's being cocky with it, hitting him with all kind of combos. And we're watching the last 3 rounds of that shit like, yo, knock him out. And you know what? He could not knock him out because Conor gets punched by people that are 170, 180 pounds on a regular. And just that 20, 30-pound difference, it was like impossible for him to do anything. And that's exactly what I feel like.
Former heavyweight contender Eddie Chambers issued a stark warning to Jake Paul ahead of his clash with Gervonta Davis, stressing that Paul's usual opponents haven't prepared him for what's coming. Chambers pointed out that Davis brings a combination of quickness, knockout power, and refined ring intelligence, qualities Paul has rarely faced. He noted that Paul's past victories mainly came against older or less experienced fighters, whereas Davis represents a different breed of fighter altogether. In Chambers' view, Paul must elevate his game significantly or risk being exposed by Davis's elite skill set and fight smarts under pressure.
On Tank. What do you think about the rumors of Tank and Jake fight?
Man, Tank disrespectful to the sport if he choose that over fighting with me. I'm the best fighter in the sport. I've been telling him that. He called cap on it. So if he won't call cap and say I'm not who I say I am.
Clash between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis has triggered sharp criticism from pundits who argue it's more spectacle than sport. According to many, the bout is being shaped by big paydays and clickbait rather than meaningful competition. They describe it as a greedy cartoonish sideshow in which traditional boxing values, skill, merit, and legacy are being sacrificed for social media traction and revenue. In their view, this shift marks
that something like this can happen, but this is social media, this is what it's created. There's a lane that Jake Paul has created. Honestly, I'm not mad at him for it. He's gotten a lot of fighters and, actual fighters some shine. It also has done for women's boxing a lot. So I'm not mad at him for what he's been in boxing, what he's created. This is a little crazy right here. This is a little crazy. And a lot of people will say, Tank is too small. Let me tell you something. Anybody that gets in the ring with Tank that is not a damn dinosaur is going to feel something from it. And it ain't going to be easy to hit it. Got boxing IQ. He may not sound like an intellectual guy when you hear him talk, but he knows the ring inside and out. So there's nothing that Jake Paul can do aside from make it extremely ugly by grabbing him and probably trying to throw him to the ground. I don't know what else, bite him. I don't know, but I mean, the skill level alone. Now, of course, there is a size difference, a height difference, and all that, but he's just going to struggle so much landing a shot. It's just going to look bad. To me, this is the way I see it. It's going to look bad. Tank is going to be too fast. And the punch, I believe, I'm not saying it's going to knock him out but